Whoa! Hey, what's up guys? Have you ever had a problem raising the trim on your outboard motor? Well, I did, so I'm going to show you how to fix the problem. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so I had a problem with the tilt trim on my motor. On my last trip, I actually came in to the ramp and tried to raise my motor. It wasn't going anywhere. Tried to raise it up, raise it down, and nothing would happen. But luckily my boat trailer was actually high enough to where I could take my boat out of the water with my motor all the way down without scratching the ramp or hitting anything. So what I actually ended up doing was, I knew there was a boat marina close by. It's actually Buzz's Marina in Southern Maryland. Mike's a really great guy. He helped me get at least my motor back up because it was just me, and I also had my buddy Joe with me. And wasn't sure what to do, but he said just bring it over. So we brought it over, took a look, and we were at least able to get the motor up. And to get the motor up in emergency, you can do that right here. There is, I'll give you guys a closer picture of this, but there is a screw here, and you'll see there's actually a picture. It looks like the motor tilting up. All you have to do is take a flathead screwdriver, put it in there, and then turn it counterclockwise, and that'll release the pressure on the I guess the pistons here on the trim. And then after you've done that, you'll be able to lift the motor. It did take 2 of us to lift it, so it'd take 2 guys to lift up the motor. And then right here there is this bracket to keep the motor from coming down, so you can actually work on it. So you gotta lift the motor. Well, first you have to unscrew the screw right here counterclockwise, and then lift the motor, and then you're gonna have to put this bracket down right here. So now that I have the bracket up, I can address the problem with the motor. So while I was at the marina with Mike, we actually tried to open up the fill hole for the tilt trim fluid, which is right here. So as we opened it up, we noticed that it started hissing, and then a lot of bubbles were coming out of it. So I think the problem with the trim was that there was too much air in it, and it wasn't bled properly, because I did actually recently get my motor serviced. I know they said they looked at the trim, but I don't think they bled it enough so that there was so that they got all of the air out of the trim. So that's what we're going to do today. So the things you're going to need for this is something to catch your trim fluid, because I'm going to put it underneath here just to catch it as I fill it up. Then you're also going to need some trim fluid. This is Yamalube. This is actual Yamaha trim fluid. I've heard you could also use transmission fluid. I think that's actually what was used to fill this, because it was like a pinkish color. But we're going to use actual Yamalube, just to put the right stuff in there. So you're going to need this, and then also you're going to need a fluid pump, just so that I can easily squirt the fluid into the reservoir. So that's just going to go right on top of the bottle right here. It's actually very similar to the same pump you would use to fill your lower unit with oil. You're also going to need a flathead screwdriver, and that's just to be able to turn the screw here to relieve the pressure of the tilt trim, and also a 17-inch socket, and that is to unscrew the bolt that's here for your trim fill reservoir. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to take you guys in closer so you can get a better look at what's going on. So what I already noticed right away when I was trying to undo the screw here for the trim fluid is that a lot of air was still coming out. So I think it really does just need to be bled. So what I'm going to do now is take the screw off, and then, yeah, actually you can hear air now. Let me put the container down here, just catch everything first. So I've loosened the bolt for the trim fluid, and as I was turning it, I noticed that there was still air coming out of it. So I'm just kind of slowly opening it now, and then we'll take a look at the fluid. The fluid should be clear. Yeah, you hear that? I don't know if you can hear that, but there's some air still coming out. Whoa. Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of air inside of there. All right, guys, so I've got everything cleaned up. As you can see from that explosion, there's a lot of pressure in there, so probably take your time taking the screw off, but videos I've watched didn't have that problem, so there was probably quite a bit of air in there as well. And I do think that is the problem, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and let some of the fluid come out, and then I'm gonna refill it. And after I refill it, I'm gonna put the bolt back on and then trim the motor up and down just to get air out. I'll do that a couple times. So I'll fill it, move the motor up and down, or the trim up and down, fill it again. So when I take the bolt off, I'll keep an eye out to see the air or bubbles coming out of the fluid. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. So the other important thing I forgot to mention to have is some paper towels. Have those on hand because you're gonna be constantly dealing with the fluid. All right, so here's the trim fluid bottle. The way to use the pump with the bottle is you just take the pump here. It comes with two different sizes for the bottom here. And if you guys are interested in purchasing any of these, I'll have a link in the description below to where you can get everything, so make sure you guys check those out. So all you do is just take, once you put the little tube on here, you just put it right on the bottle. And then you just screw it right on. So all I gotta do now is just start pumping, and then the tilt trim fluid will come out right here. This is super messy. So I just put some of the trim fluid in there and put the bolt back on. So I'm gonna go ahead and raise and lower the motor, and we'll see how much air is in there after. All right, so once you put some fluid inside of the reservoir, you do have to turn that screw again. So you do have to turn the screw on the trim back clockwise so that now all the hydraulics will engage. So it actually sounds way better than before. So I even noticed before my trim stopped working that it was kind of acting weird, so I should have tried to deal with the problem then. But you know, that's just me procrastinating, you know, with the boat. You should never do that because, you know, you could be stuck or, you know, in the middle of the water or whatever, for whatever problem it is. But in this case, I could have been stuck on the ramp if my trailer wasn't tall enough. But anyways, one thing I wanted to mention is that every time you take the fill bolt off here, make sure you raise your motor and then you put the kickstand down just in case, because you never know that, you know, the hydraulics may fail on you as you're, you know, filling it or whatever, and then your motor's going to come down on you. You know, this is an F225, so this is like over 400 pounds. You don't want that thing falling on you. So every time you open that cap, make sure you have your brackets down. So I'm going to check it one more time. I think we're good, and then I'm going to fill it, and I think we'll be good to go. It sounds really good now. And for me on my brackets, what I noticed is I have to pull both at the same time. So I have the one on the left I'm pulling down, and then also the one on the right. So I'm using both my hands to do that. And you can see it's down, and now I can put my motor down on the bracket, and then we're gonna open up the screw. I'm gonna give you guys a closer look at the screw though, or the bolt. All right, so there's the bolt right there. I just hand tightened it for now just because I had to open it a few times to test. So I'm going to take it off, and I'll have the trim fluid ready to put it in and start pumping it up. So let's take a look. Let's see if you can just listen if you hear any air. Hear that hissing? There's still some air in there. And I do see bubbles on the fluid, so we'll let some of that out. Oh yeah, there's a lot of air. Do this very slow. Yeah, so hear that? There's a lot of air still in there. I do this very slow. I don't want the camera to get squirted by fluid again. Oh, there you go. Still more air. I'm gonna let those bubbles come out and then we'll put new fluid. I may actually have to get more fluid and work on this more. Yeah, I don't know if you can see there's a lot of air still in there. We're gonna let that drain out. So what we really want is we want the fluid to come out with no bubbles in it. Yeah, that's clear now. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill it and put the cap back on. So what I did was I raised the motor up and down a couple times, and then I checked the reservoir again to see if there's bubbles in the fluid. If there were bubbles, I would just put I'd fill it up again, and then I'd put the bolt back on and then raise and lower the motor. So I just kept doing that a couple times until there were no more bubbles in the fluid. All right, so now that I've got all the air out, what I need to do is tighten the bolt here. I've already hand tightened it. I'm just gonna take my 17mm socket and I'm just gonna tighten it enough. You don't want to over tighten this because it will get pressurized, as you saw in that beginning of the video. So that bolt is on there pretty good now, and we're good to go. All right guys, as you see, my trim works perfect now. There's no more air in the trim fluid. I'll have to keep an eye on it as I use it. Now I know what it should not feel like and what it should feel like, so that's actually good. But as you can see, bleeding the trim is actually not a hard thing to do. You can do it yourself. Just have the appropriate fluid and tools and you're good to go. You probably will need help if you do have a bigger motor, like my F225. But it's easy to do, so if you guys have any comments and questions about how to do it or what I did, let me know in the comments section below. And also I'll provide everything I use in the video in the video description, so make sure you guys check those out. So if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber, make sure you subscribe for future videos. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Damn, got a good one?
I think so, either that or I fell. No, he's a good one. He's fat.
Yeah, that's a good one.